Kia ora, everyone. My name is Joseph Babulia, and I'm a professor in the School of Psychology at Victoria University. Today, I'm going to give a brief introductory lecture to the material on cultural phylogenetics. Now, last week, we asked the question, why are beliefs in unseen supernatural realities ubiquitous and ancient, part of the human condition as long as there have been humans? And what might the beliefs and rituals do for people? We encountered a theory called commitment signaling theory, which argues that at small social scales, religious costs, the hard to explain features of religious ritual, are configured to signal cooperative intentions. Only people who truly believe in supernatural realities will be willing to undertake such costly rituals. Observing people in a setting where they are undertaking these costs enables would-be cooperators to assess their cooperative intentions. So commitment signaling theory gives an elegant account of how it is that costly religious behaviors and supernatural beliefs come together and co-evolve to enable people in smaller settings to overcome otherwise insurmountable cooperative problems, or at least hard to surmount cooperative problems. We then looked at how it is that at large social scales, religious cultures that are configured to evoke cooperative intentions can evolve to help people within those groups to overcome coordination problems with risk wherever those rituals are effective at evoking strong emotion. And we looked at a little bit of evidence for commitment signaling theory in the context of a Mauritian ritual, where we observed that there are more cooperative responses in a high arousal, high cost component of a Thai Pusam ritual as compared with a low arousal, low cost or lower cost component of that same ritual. Well, this week we're going to shift gear. So last week we're talking about why is religion universal? This week we're going to ask the question, what accounts for variation in religious culture? Religions are fascinatingly diverse. Is the pattern of cultural variation random, or are there underlying principles or causes that we can make sense of? And if so, how can evolutionary theory help to guide us? So the question this week is on cultural variation, differences. Now we're going to be focusing on Pacific cultural diversity, which encompasses half of the world's longitude and a third of the world's latitude. The Pacific is an amazing arena of cultural success. While Europeans were indentured to various higher authorities in Europe, Pacific peoples were expanding across the Pacific and learning to not only extract a life out of highly variable ecological settings, but how to flourish. And we're going to focus on the role that religion might have played to facilitate these successes. The focus of our attention will be on a large database of Pacific cultural diversity that my colleagues Russell Gray, Joseph Watts, Oliver Sheehan, Quentin Atkinson, Simon Greenhill, and many of the others you see here built specifically to test cultural evolutionary hypotheses of religion. And what we're going to do is share some of the exciting, I guess, first publications to come out of this extraordinary database. And it really is Joseph Watson, Oliver Sheehan, who put the most amount of work into learning as much as they could about the source materials of 116 cultures, which only goes to show how people who are pretty early on in their academic careers can make absolutely outstanding contributions in this area. So we'll talk about the Pulatu database. As I mentioned, there's 116 cultures covering all the major subregions of Australasia. We have 80 variables about the culture, society, religious belief, practice, methods of resource extraction, resources available. So the first study that we're going to look at is going to test a theory that specific types of beliefs, namely beliefs in big gods, drive particular types of society, big societies. That theory has been proposed at least 40 years ago. And Joseph Watts was the first author on a paper that set about to test it. And what we'll see is that the results don't quite pan out as the theory had predicted. Another paper, does ritual sacrifice cause or support political authority? The view that ritual sacrifice is a means by which political elites shore up their authority is one that the theory has been around since the 1970s. So in the second study, we look at the timing in the emergence of ritual sacrifice and work out whether the emergence of this ritual form helped to propagate very specific types of authority. In the third study, we're going to look at the spread of Christianity across the Pacific. And we're again going to use time series data to test two cultural historical theories of conversion. The first theory argues that conversion was facilitated in politically complex societies. It was the ability of elites to coordinate their societies that enabled Christianity to spread. And the elites had various interests in accommodating Christianity to enable them to have more power. Well, that's one particular theory. Another theory is that Christianity was extremely appealing in highly unequal societies. And the reason for this is that where there's high inequality, Christianity has a message of egalitarian acceptance. And it was in societies with high inequality that we find Christianity taking hold faster. Okay, that's the basis of the third study. And what I want you to pay attention to are the following questions. How does evolutionary theory help to generate hypotheses about cultural variation, specifically about religious cultural variation, whether evolutionary theory can help to explain variation? The next question I want you to keep in mind is why are horizontal methods or synchronic methods, why are they weaker than the time series or phylogenetic methods that we consider during this week's lecture? The third question I'd like you to consider is how have researchers used time series data in the Pacific to test cultural evolutionary theories of religion? So we're going to look at 3 studies, and I want you to understand what the details of those studies are, which we will review in the lectures, and what were the main findings. Now, if you remain interested in using time series data and combining time series data with evolutionary hypotheses to explain fundamental questions about humans, I'd encourage you to check out our honors courses. Next year, I'll be teaching a course in culture and behavior, which will be focusing in more detail on the cultural evolution of religion. And I'll also be teaching a special topics course in longitudinal social psychology, where we're going to be using time series methods to understand cultural diversity in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I thank you for your attention. Again, if you have any questions whatsoever, please do get in touch with me. My email address is on the opening slide, and I hope you have a great week. Thank you.